right, we'll call the meeting to order. Board of Supervisors. The clerk will notice all supervisors are present, in addition to the administrator and the clerk treasurer. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. If you have a cell phone, if you wouldn't mind turning it off or putting it on vibrate so as not to interrupt the meeting. And a reminder to the board to please speak into the microphone. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we need to approve the agenda. I'll second. Three seconds. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. We have the minutes from the October 17th board meeting. I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, and that motion carries. We have the approved the payment of bills. Are there any questions on those bills? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Administrators report, Bud?
Work is progressing on the Ellison Bay dock. Things are pretty well torn up down there. We're coordinating with the contractor for installation of the electrical tower, which will be done. We trench that out for them and cut the asphalt out. It'll be paved in the spring. Siskiyou Bay Utilities meeting a week or so ago, it was noted that the village and the town utility district are all over in BOD capacity. The village went over 115%, the utility district went over 108%, and the town, rest of the town used under 10% of its capacity. So the village and the utility district will need to buy capacity from the town for that month of July, and I'm working on the numbers, coordinating with Gary Rosenbeck to make sure that they look like they should. The budget hearing was held on the 17th of October. The town has gone up $11,177, which is 0.5%. The Gibraltar School District has gone up just under 11,000, 10,777. So that's 0.4%. NWTC has gone up 5,300. That's 0.7%. And the valuation of the town itself has decreased by $4,674,300. Food clinic was held here on the 20th. Talked to the administrators of the serum after the event, and they said they had about 30 people show up, which is approximately the same as 2016. And there's a meeting with the village tomorrow night here at 6:30 with a closed session.
Any questions? All right, going on to public input. Before we get to public input, I would like to make a comment. Mr. Combs was awarded the Citizen of the Year from the Northern Thor Kiwanis Club, and I think it's a well-deserved honor on his part, and I'd like to stand and give him a round of applause. I love it when he blushes.
Thank you very much.
All right, public input's an opportunity to address the board on any given subject and also on agenda items. We'll go to, yes, Carl? We'll start with any given.
Carl Godfrey, Joe's Rock, 630 State Highway 42. I just have a quick question for the supervisors, and that is, I was not aware earlier this year that any work on Cottage Road was part of a highway budget. Is that an addition, and if so, where did the money to do it come from?
It's in the budget for the coming year we've got.
For the coming year,
Yes.
2018, okay.
Yeah.
So, but the preparatory work, was that, are you brush cutting this year or next year?
This fall, it will start shortly.
Has the residents along that road been contacted?
No.
They've all been notified of the procedures and the time frame. We'll be marking trees. We're gonna have to mark those pretty soon because we're running out of time this fall to use our trucks. So we hope to get that done within the next, talking about marking Friday possibly, and then, doing the work starting the following week if it works out.
Anybody else, general comments? If not, people that'd like to speak on an agenda item? Kathy. Okay, then going on to number 8. Consider condemnation proceedings at 11976 Highway 42 in Ellison Bay. Kathy has provided us with information from the person that she hired to go on the property. Excuse me, I think everybody has that. I am not aware that Mr. Hanson is certified at any of the fields that we're worried about, structural integrity and or fire. So I guess what we need to do now, Kathy, is ask you, we would like to have permission to have somebody who is certified in both of those categories go on to the property so that we are sure that we are correct in our assessment.
Excuse me, let me check, because I'm not,
Yep.
don't know if I heard you correctly, John.
Okay.
Okay, and I have to address the board here and let all of you know that Bart cannot hear you, and I'm having a real hard time hearing you also. So if we can turn up the sound,
Sure.
because I'm missing it. Al Hansen, one of the men that I received this estimate from, is a licensed contractor. And he is available tonight on telephone and is expecting a call around 7:15 tonight. So if you have questions from him, he will gladly answer it. There's no electricity. I talked to somebody up here who used to do the fire inspections, who no longer does it. And he informed me if there's no electricity, there's no fire hazard. There's no electricity, the meters have been pulled by WPS. I also have another estimate, a verbal from Carlos Roofing up here, with a dollar amount, and what we're looking at, and the intent is to tarp it this winter, to get us through the winter until it can be completed, depending on what happens here, and what else my brother John tries to sabotage Bart and I on. I also have Nancy Bussey, Matt Robinson, and Bart Alon, who have all worked on the property since our last meeting with me, that would like to speak. Being personal property and in compliance with ordinance number 1-99, I don't see where we're in violation of any ordinance. And I don't want to get into an argument because I want to work with the board and everything, okay? All Bart and I have received is compliments throughout how much work we've done. And it's my brother John who's causing problems because he's not getting his, whatever he thinks he's entitled to. Okay, he's fired his past attorney, he's now hired an attorney I used to work for. And I found that out 2 nights ago. But I can show you pictures right now of what the inside of the motel looks like, where we've been working. And there's still a lot of stuff, but we've cleaned out a heck of a lot. So, So, like I say, I don't know where we're in violation of any ordinance right now.
I understand, Ms. Olson, about private property, obviously, it is private property, but what I don't understand was the reluctance to have a fire chief or inspector just give us the comfort to know that there isn't a fire hazard. In other words, the condemnation proceeding is based on the fact that the property poses a danger in several ways. And for me, I can't speak for the fellow supervisors, to say, well, I've been assured by a certified contractor that there's no fire hazard at all, notwithstanding the electricity being pulled. I don't think I've been doing my due diligence as a supervisor to the town. God forbid there is a fire somehow. And a volunteer, maybe, let alone someone who's not directly involved with fighting that fire, is hurt. It would come back to me to say, yeah, but all you did was rely on a certified contractor, not somebody who is who's qualified to be able to provide that kind of assurance. It's the only concern I have. And I understand your defense of private property. It's sacred. But having a fire inspector give me an assurance that it's not a problem seems to be, I don't think, too much to ask from the town's perspective.
No disrespect, but Bart was on the fire department. Now, that would be a biased party, I understand that. But I don't think the town board has the right to go into anybody's personal property. And it's hard for all of you to accept is it's because my brother John is causing the problems. There's been no other complaints. We've been in compliance. I mean, 4 months after my parents passed away, I received a letter about all this stuff. And we've cleaned that up. We're continually working on compliance. I don't go into Bud's home, I don't go into John's home, excuse my informality, okay? And say, oh, I don't like that wood pile, or I don't like this or that. You know, and I find it, somebody's was on mom and dad's butt about all this stuff when they were alive. I understand that. And we're diligently working on cleaning it up. And I honestly, you know, no electricity, there's no fire hazard. What would pose a fire hazard? I guess that's the question. What would be considered a fire hazard?
Go ahead, sir.
If I may say something about that, a fire hazard, if there's a lot of stuff stacked up, there's such a thing as spontaneous combustion from a lot of combustible things being close together, whether there's electricity or not. So that's one concern. Let me please, at least for my part, put to bed the thought that your brother John has anything to do with this. In my mind, this has been going on well before John wrote his letter, and I see that as a family squabble, and I'm out of that, 100%. I'm speaking as an elected board member whose first and foremost charge from the state is to look after the public trust and the health, welfare, and safety of all of our citizens. As such, I looked, the last meeting in July when you were here, I asked you, is anyone living there? And you said, I do, when I come up. If there's no electricity, the toilet won't flush. There's a lot of amenities that aren't there for safe and healthy human habitation, and that's a concern. In July, at that meeting, you said you already had 2 quotes for and they were waiting for a 3rd on the cleanup. And here it is, 3 months later, 12 weeks later, and there's one quote from a contractor to fix the roof. If I may finish, I do not understand, I do understand the whole concept of private property, but I do not understand the recalcitrance to allow the fire inspector to look at it. Our Liberty Grove Sister Bay Fire Department is made up of an echelon of firefighters that have gotten the training to be fire inspector, firefighter 1, firefighter 2, fire chief. The fire chief and the fire inspector are at the top of that list. And I'm not minimizing the role that's played by firefighters, but they have not had the training to actually come into a circumstance and investigate and give an opinion. And as a board member, I agree totally with Lou that what we're looking for as a board is some creditable insurance or assurance that the property, not just the house, but the motel, the property itself does not pose a health and safety and welfare hazard to the public.
Okay, let me address that. The quote on hiring people to clean up were stopped because of John Lee Olson's actions, taking me to court. The attorney told me to stop getting that and see what happens. When John Lee lost in court the second time, they had me removed as personal representative. He wrote the town of Liberty Grove. After the meeting we had last time with the town, he wrote the judge another letter. And the judge is just not even addressing it right now. And now we're back as a follow-up to the previous meeting. So the attorney doesn't want me to spend any money on hiring people to assist with the cleanup because of John Lee's actions and where the court's gonna take it next. We don't know. And now with him firing his attorney, Matt Gribble, out of Sturgeon Bay, and hiring one of my former bosses, we don't know what's gonna happen. So no money is gonna be forked out on it. However, money will be forked out to tarp the roofs, because we wanna continue working on the cleanup and go through it. Now, your other comment about no electricity, I stay in there when I come home. I also camp. I rough it when I camp, no running water, no electricity, no nothing. So this is no different from me. I sleep in my bedroom up there. I have a bucket to go to the bathroom in, just like in Girl Scout camp and when Matt and I go camping. I have flashlights. I don't use candles. I have headlamps. There's no difference in camping, except I'm in an interior structured building. Yeah, it makes it miserable. I also use the beach facilities, but that's it. I mean, I go to Pioneer Store, I get food. I don't know what, I have a licensed contractor here waiting for a phone call if you'd like to speak with him on it. There's been nothing but compliments. We ate at JJ's tonight. JJ complimented how much. Go to Gills Rock Pottery, Thor compliments how much we've done. Everybody that I encounter compliments parts of my work and what we're all doing versus what happened at the memorial service where that one woman badmouthed mom and dad. I don't go into other people's houses. I don't even open the refrigerator in anybody else's house. I'm not trying to get into an argument. That's how I was raised, okay? And with Bart doing construction work, with Bart being previously on the fire department, I also used to, when I was at RGL, up until last August, I used to train the proper PPE, the fire extinguisher, how to use all that. I used to train all of the employees in the Georgia Pacific plant. on it, and the medical, what to look for, what's combustible, what's not. I mean, we've removed paint cans, we've removed aerosol cans, I mean, the stuff that's there is knickknacks, silverware. Did you know that a fire can start by having a plastic water bottle in the sunlight? I just read about that online. You know, I mean, it's like, it's household stuff there, there's tools. Yes, Dad was a carpenter, I mean, you know, I don't know what else to say. If you'll allow Nancy, Matt, or Bart to speak. You know, Al is waiting for our phone call. And that's Al Hanson.
Anybody else wish to speak? Please.
Yeah, I think I'm Kathy's significant other, and I think that she had said a lot of stuff, like all the stuff that she's been doing and getting it forward, you know, going forward with the property. I mean, there's just a lot of work to get done, and she's been doing a lot of work, so I do understand that the board has the public's best interest in mind. We actually took out a lot of aerosol cans a couple weeks ago, oil cans, anything that would contribute towards like a fire hazard, you know, but I can still understand the board wanting the best for the residents and safety, and that's good, but we just have to continue cleaning the place up and seeing where it goes from there. And one day it's gonna get there, and then hopefully we'll be able to get it there and see what happens. But we'll continue to clean it up, and I guess that's all we can do. And you know, Nancy helps quite a bit with the cleaning. She does a lot of the gardening outside to keep the place looking nice from outside, and that's a great help. And me and Bart do a lot of the bowl work, pulling out the mattresses or whatever out of there, and so we got some stuff to do, but I think if we're given some more time to get it done, I think we'll be able to get it done. So I guess that's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I have your name, please?
Matt Robinson.
Gary, please.
Yeah, you've been promoting Al Hansen as an expert as far as being able to give us a viable report. Yes, I'm looking at his sheet, and number 3 on the sheet is tarp all roofs till spring, start repairs around April or May. I've been watching that building. There's not a tarp on that roof, or any other roof. There hasn't been since this information was sent to us.
No, this
So
is-
if he's an expert, why hasn't he gone out and gotten a tarp on that roof?
I haven't hired him. Based on the outcome of this meeting, this is the proposed work. This is the proposed. I'm also waiting.
Does he have a tarp ready to go?
They will be, but I'm waiting for estimate from Carlos Roofing. I spoke to Carlos the other night. He gave me a motel estimate of $11,500 for shingles plus plywood. The house $10,230 and doesn't include plywood. He gets $40 per hour. And then he was supposed to get back to me with the cost of tarps. And I tried calling him a couple nights ago, left him a voicemail, he did not return my call. I can also order line tarps, heavy duty, they're called super duty, heavy duty tarps for $137 online. But I'm waiting to hear from Carlos because he's up here.
So now we're supposed to, as you go out and contact these contractors, we're supposed to wait till you get a reply from them to determine whether or not anything is going to be done as far as that property. You've got an estimate to put tarps on the roofs right now,
Right.
and then you're saying until Carlos gets back to you, you can't do anything until he gets you an estimate.
The-
So then who are you gonna contact next? And are you gonna come back next time and say, well, I contacted these two people, they haven't gotten back to me, so I don't know what kind of tarps to put on the roof, and I'm waiting for them to give me an estimate on it.
The attorney.
Where does this end?
Attorney Hauser has advised me not to spend any money until the court decides what is going on. In August, the court had given a deadline, Judge Ehlers had given a deadline of August 31st, 2017, of deciding whether or not to divide the property. Then, because of the work that Bart and I, Nancy and Matt have done on the place, Attorney Hauser took it to the court. There was no court hearing. And then John Lee Olson wrote a letter to the town board and made the accusations fire hazard, condemnation. Personally, I feel like John Lee is in cahoots with somebody up here that wants the property condemned, wants it for peanuts. And it's all because he's not in control. This is a personal matter where the town board, John Lee has gotten the town board involved because he's not in control. He's the middle child, he's not in control. Bart, the four of us here are working diligently on it. I've asked John, when Mom and Dad first passed, what his suggestions were. All I got out of him, he wanted a plan. I asked what his suggestions for a plan he had. I get nothing. All I run in is to obstacles, and we are diligently working on the cleanup, the throwing away of the garbage, all this stuff, and it's like, you know, at times, Dad was running in circles. You know, somebody would complain about a piece of machinery on this property, then they'd move it over to another place. Then they'd complain about it there, well, then he'd move it over to another place. We're not doing that, we're disposing of the property. We've taken trailer loads of stuff to Barbara and Wally Dobner to burn. We're trying to be in compliance, work with the board, work with the town. We're getting compliments. When Mom and Dad first passed, Shelley and Bart couldn't even go into Piggly Wiggly because people were bad mouthing. And what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? The nitpick, nay. You know, and we continue to work on it and make progress. And then John Lee starts us on this spinning circle here. You know, and I'm not gonna run circles for him. I'm gonna keep plugging away like the Attorney Hauser has advised me to, and keep plugging forward. Now, if you want tarps on it, I'll go gladly order them online, and I'll come up here and I'll rig up some method to get up there myself and do it. If I fall and break my neck, that's on everybody's head, because I have absolutely no expertise, and now I'm getting sarcastic, and I apologize, but I'm really tired of this. I don't have patience for John Lee trying to run me in circles like this, and it's not gonna happen. We
Okay.
are working on a 50-plus year project of stuff, okay? I'm also looking into flea markets. There's flea markets held the second Saturday of every month now at the watering hole through the winter. I will be taking stuff there and trying to sell stuff, okay? I have 4 shows of my own starting on Saturday for the next 3 days. I'm working on that. Okay? I'd rather be getting ready for those shows than being here tonight, and I don't wanna argue, and I don't wanna make waves of the board. I can't give you deadlines, I don't have any control over Carlos getting back to me. I can order the tarps tonight, if you want me to do, if you say, Kathy, I want you to order the tarps that are 24 feet, that will cover the roof of the motel, 24 feet by 300 feet, I will do that. You know, and then I will be up here the next available weekend, because I do work weekends. And I will figure out a ladder or something to crawl up there and do it. You know, but I'm told by somebody that I trust as a licensed contractor that the buildings are structurally sound. Carlos was up there, he told me verbally, the buildings are structurally sound. I mean,
Kathy, I
somebody,
think if,
please ask, John, excuse me, somebody ask John Lee Olson why he's not up here helping us, why he thinks he's too good to be up here helping it. I have text messages, I'm not helping.
Kathy, I think we have to separate what's going on in the family from the issue before the board. That's the first thing.
Absolutely.
We cannot become part and parcel of your family feud, I guess is the way to phrase it. That's not our position, that's not our power to do that. Our power is, if that's the term we should use, our authority is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of this community. So what we are asking you again is, we would like permission to have, and I would assume it would be our local fire chief, tell us that, no, there is no hazard there at all. We'd like to have a structural engineer take a look and tell us there's no problem there at all with the buildings, that they will, that they're fine, structurally fine. That has to be the thing we have to look at and decide what the procedure is going to be.
And that would cost you nothing.
Now, we have had deadline and deadline and deadline and deadline and deadline. And what I'm hearing right now is you want to put tarps over those structures to now give you time to do some more cleaning. So you're asking us for another deadline.
No, I'm telling you what the plan is, excuse me, Jim. This
But,
is-
well, okay, but that in effect is asking us for another deadline.
Who pays for what?
That question over there, Susan.
Um,
What I was going to ask here was, who pays for this? The inspection of this, the inspection of that?
We would.
I've been involved in this
Right.
for a number of years. I got the Lions Club to come and do the initial cleanup. And we're not getting anywhere. And we need somebody to come in there, Kathy, that you would have trust in, and that the board would have trust in, to look at this situation. And I know the fire chief very well. He's your man.
Excuse me.
You know the fire chief, Bart, don't you? You know the fire chief?
I don't know him personally, I don't. I used to be a volunteer fireman.
Yeah, okay. But that is a person, maybe you should meet. And would he be acceptable to the board?
Absolutely.
And then maybe we can get this thing out stopped.
Please, because this is like stop the insanity, Susan Powers.
That's right. And the problem is, the level of trust is not there.
I understand that, Bob.
That would be nice, his expertise is fire safety.
And, fire chief, I'll call him if you want me to.
No, we'll go through official channels, but Kathy has to give us permission for that.
Yeah, I know, but she probably needs to meet him. We need to,
And I need to look at the weekend calendar of when I can drive up here again.
yeah. Okay.
Because this is $40 each time I come up here too. So I am agreeable to that.
I'll pay for your fuel.
No, you won't. No, you won't, I'm tired of it.
Huh?
No, you won't pay for my fuel, too proud.
Are we gonna put it off again now? I think you have to.
I'm
Because you're not getting any.
I'm gonna make a suggestion that we authorize the town attorney to commence the appropriate procedures for condemnation. And that's to ask the judge to order the appropriate people to go on that property and determine, one, if there's a fire hazard, secondly, if the structures are stable,
I
structurally sound.
think, I have a motion.
Not yet.
No. I think, John, that's a mistake. Why don't you put a hold on this commendation? And let's try to do it without that.
We have been asking that for months to do it without that. And all we end up is coming back time and again, trying to get involved in the family dispute. And if that's not working, then asking, well, we need time to do this again, we need time to do this, we need time to do that. And all the cost figures and so forth, all we need is to have somebody that we feel comfortable with go on that property and say yes or no.
And if the inspection comes back that there truly is no fire hazard, no structural hazard, we're out of here.
Yep.
It's your private property.
You-
John, if you were to have a building in the village of Ephraim, the village annually inspects commercial buildings for fire and safety and structural
Correct.
stuff. That's just normal operation procedures. And frankly, you know, this has been ongoing for quite a while. I don't see nothing wrong with saying a month from now, we'll give to finish, to do this structural thing, fire thing, and you'll just have to rearrange your book to make it up here. I think it's a fair compromise for everyone. And the town would pay for the inspections, and as Nancy says, if everything's okay, we can get on with life. If it's not, I think we need to take another road. But I continually hear, you know, first off, you shouldn't be camping in your building without a toilet and running water. I suspect that's not code.
That's correct.
And you just need to allow these people in. It's not like it's some major, interest in your private life. Just let the people in, let them make the inspection, and let's all get on with life. You should know, you'd want to know the results from the inspection, I'd hope.
Condemnation is a pretty powerful step. I mean, it is the government taking private property. And that would involve, unfortunately, continuing litigation, and it goes on forever, and it's drastic. And as I had, and I do affirm what we've seen done on the outside. There's no question about that. It looks 1,000 times better from the outside than it ever had. You're removing all that eyesore that had been collecting in the front yard with the help of community members as well is commendable, without a doubt. And if what you need to see is, from our perspective, our responsibility, and as the other gentleman suggested, we're doing it for the right reasons, for the public safety and health, but our job means that we need to do it in a way in which we rely on something that we can go on and say, look, it's not a hazard at least from a fire perspective, because we have the authority from an expert who we can then say, but this is what we were told, and it's not a fire hazard. But if I could not, and as drastic a step as condemnation is, I'd have to agree with Chairman Lowry that I would go ahead with the condemnation proceedings without getting at least the okay from an independent inspector to say that this is not a fire hazard. And then I could say I've done my job that way as well. And in a way, and I'm not suggesting otherwise, but the reluctance to have a fire chief go and look at it might suggest that there is something There might be something, and that scares me even more, because it's not going to be any cost to anybody but the town to have the fire chief, or whoever he chooses to go, say, look, I'm okay, I bless this is not a fire hazard. And then I'm good. And then that drastic proceeding of condemnation would then be avoided, at least for the time being.
May I speak?
Sure.
With all due respect, is from my viewpoint, okay, and I'm not gonna argue, okay? This is, see it from my shoes, okay? I think condemnation, we don't wanna go there, number one. I wanna save the building, okay? Number two, it's private property. Nobody should be, except people that I allow on the property should be allowed on the property or barred, because it is private property. I think prior to any condemnation proceedings, because that's extremely expensive and litigation's gonna cost a heck of a lot of money, okay? And it's a lot of paperwork, and I'm not paralegal on it, so I really don't wanna see that unless, you know, I can be part, and I don't wanna be part of that. But I think what's needed is, what may be needed is somebody, a fire inspector, to say, okay, this is a fire hazard. Point out specific, because I've gone through the ordinances with a fine-tooth comb, and I do not see where we are not in compliance with the ordinance. As a paralegal, I do not see it, okay? So I need somebody to just say, okay, Kathy, that pile of magazines is a fire hazard. God only knows what'll start it on fire, but that's a fire hazard. I think that may be necessary prior to saying, okay, let's condemn the damn thing. You know?
We are asking your permission for us to have that sort of thing done. For a inspector that the town hires to go on the property and say to us, there is no fire hazard, there is a fire hazard. And this structural person to go on and say those structures are fine, those structures are not. But we need your permission to do that. If you do not want to grant us that, then we've got to go to the court, because as Lou is pointing out, we need to affirm to ourselves before any condemnation begins that what we're doing is the correct thing to do.
Question, is that, explain, educate me. Is it because there was a complaint on the property with those accusations that the town is involved, or what? I'm not saying no, okay, just educate me, John, on that, please.
It goes back to the fact that I believe the board feels that there's a possibility there that there's a structural danger. It's an uninhabitable building, and I believe if you are staying there, you're probably in violation not only of county ordinance, but of state statutes.
How?
Yes.
How? Where?
By staying in a building that has no running water, no septic system, staying in a structure, that's a lot different than camping.
For one night?
Doesn't make any sense. The statute isn't gonna say, no, you can stay there for a night or 2 hours.
What statute? Because I will do the.
You have to look it up in the state, and we'll go back if you want. And that obviously, if we have to go to court, that obviously is gonna come out in the court, in the proceedings. And we really don't wanna do this. But we've been just going on and on and on. And as Gary pointed out before, so what are we gonna do, delay again?
Well,
The time has come to make a decision, and that decision is going to be, falls on your part. Please.
What's the worst that could happen? You say you allow the inspectors to come in. The very worst that can happen is they both say, yep, it's a fire hazard, yep, it's a structural hazard, and condemnation proceeds. But, now wait a minute. The other thing that could happen is the town tonight says, we're gonna start proceedings, which will begin with an inspection. Either way, there will be an inspection, whether it's legally forced or whether you allow it. One way is much more expensive than the other. We have to know, as a town, the results of an inspection from somebody who is qualified to give us that report. And it'll either come from you, allowing it to happen, and let the cards fall where they may. You seem very convinced that there is not a problem there. That would be wonderful. We would really like that. The other thing is, if somebody comes in there inspecting for fire hazard, inspecting for building stability, and they see something, they are in an imminent position to say, you know, if you just do this, this, and this will be good. You know, right now it's not so good. If you just, they can give you some very expert guidance as to very targeted, specific things that can be done if there is a problem to make it better and to save the buildings.
Can I say something?
Please.
If they come in and say that, like you were just speaking, like they'll say that there's these things that you can fix, will the board give the time for her able to do that, which that would be going forward with it then?
I think that's every bit of part of working with the board.
Yeah. So, there you go, there's, you know.
That's where I'm at. There's so much stuff that's overwhelming, and it's like, okay, you condemn it, I have 30 to 45 days to get everything out of it. Holy smokes, how does that fit into my schedule, okay? But I would welcome a list. We've got to figure out, I'll work
We have to
with
say that
Bob
about
on
the
when the
chief.
fire chief is available. I will work with Bob on that, because I don't know who the fire chief is anymore up here. And give me a list of what has to be done, so I can get that taken care of.
That
The
would
list
be,
is, you have to open the door. to-
right, you have to open the door
That's it.
to the fire
You don't even
chief.
have to be here.
Yeah, I do.
Well, you know,
Yes, I do.
you want to be here, you don't need to be here. There's a whole big difference. And I think maybe we should have a motion, something that allows her a month or something to get an inspector. And then if failing that, to proceed.
We need in writing from her permission for us to proceed.
And she doesn't have to be there at all.
No, I understand why she wants to be, but she doesn't have to.
Did you want to say something yet?
You know, I'd like to say something else what Nancy was saying is, if this is my building, I would welcome an inspector to come in. I truly would, to point out where I could make corrections to make the building habitable. When you build a building now in the town of Liberty Grove, they look at the ground before you pour the concrete. They look at the concrete that's been poured. They look at the framing structure of the building. They look at the insulation. They look at the wiring. They look at the plumbing. They look at the roofing. This isn't something new. You know, this has happened all the time now. I think it would be in everyone's best interest if you just said, please have an inspector and a fire inspector and a structural engineer paid for by the town to come and look at my property. And you're gonna learn something that you don't have to pay for. And hopefully it'll come out clean.
I'll make a motion.
Nancy wanted.
Oh, please.
Okay, I just came to say that I have worked on it with Kathy, and she's done a hell of a job. I mean, we all have, we've worked so hard. And I love this property. I don't want to see it condemned. It would break my heart, and I'm just out of it, because I love it that much.
If the board were to begin condemnation proceedings, the first step would be to have it inspected. And Kathy can avoid the beginning of those proceedings by simply allowing the inspections to happen. Either way, they need to happen. And I agree very much with what Lou said. You should welcome this. It is information that you really do need to know if you are committed to saving those buildings. I'm going to go off topic just slightly here. GODC just purchased a building at the top of the Ellison Bay Hill. It used to be Grandview Goods. It's 60-some years old. It has some issues, but we want to save the structure. got a roofing problem, it's got a big hole in the roof right now, and Up Top Roofing is fixing it. They started last week. We're committed to reusing and not buying new, to bringing that building back. And it can be done. There's a lot of stuff to be done. I commend you for the hard work. Nobody's arguing about the cleanup that you've done and the work that's ongoing. But now we're to issues that are beyond your scope. They need an expert to look at it. And with you welcoming that expert information, and granted, and hopefully, there will be no issues, and everybody backs off, you continue the interior cleanup of the stuff that's in there and the selling of it at your pace because there is no issue, or you get advice from people who are experts in that field, paid for by the town, as to what you can do to rehab those buildings and bring them back to what they should be. It's a win-win situation for you.
Excuse me, can I get your name, ma'am, please?
Nancy Bussey, USSE.
I'm going to make a motion that as a condition of postponing the initiation of condemnation proceedings for 30 days from the date of this motion, the owner of 11976 Highway 42 will provide in writing permission for a fire inspector and structural engineer inspection designated by the town and at the cost of the town for inspection of the property at 11976 Highway 42.
I'll second. Discussion? Gary?
Friendly amendment, I'd like to move that the dates be changed from 30 days to the time of the next board meeting, which is the 15th.
Too short,
Get a letter of permission?
No, I thought John would get the inspection done.
No, it's
Just permission.
Is there a second to the amendment?
I'll second that. All it takes is a letter.
You withdraw your second or
No. Okay, we have a main motion and an amendment. Will you read the amendment, please? Only the amendment.
To amend the time to 15 days.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye. Aye. Nay, anybody? Let the record reflect unanimous. We will now read the motion as amended.
I need this piece of paper.
starts with as a condition,
Okay. As a condition of postponing
initiation.
the initiation of condemnation proceedings, 15 days from the date of this motion, the owner will provide in writing permission for a fire inspector and a structural engineer designated by the town and paid for by the town to inspect the property at 11976 Highway 42.
Discussion on the amended motion?
I'd just like to say, Jen, I think that's a friendly, truly a win-win situation for us.
All in favor of the motion as amended?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and let the record again reflect unanimous. Do you understand you have till the 15th
Of November.
of this month to provide the town with a letter of permission,
Yes.
okay?
It doesn't mean the inspection has to be done.
No, just permission. We'll handle all that.
It doesn't have to be a very
It's
complicated.
like, I'm calling myself Wonder Woman now, you guys.
It doesn't have to be a very complicated letter.
No.
No, Kathy, it could be just a very simple statement that really is what is in the motion. It just says I give permission as the owner of that property for fire inspection and structural engineer inspection. That's it.
Towns.
At the town's expense.
And I can email it to Janet.
Yes.
Sure, and I would recommend you run that past your attorney as well.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, very good. Let's
Thank
move-
you.
Yeah, thank you. Let's move on to number 9, consider resolution 1117, pot plan for 2018. Janet?
This is a bookkeeping thing. We do this every year. Whenever you have a premium-only plan where it is pre-tax, there has to be an agency that monitors your pre-tax policies. We have to do a resolution to authorize this company, which they call themselves POP Plan, to go ahead and do it.
So we need a motion to approve.
Approve the
Approve it.
resolution, right.
So moved.
Resolution 17-11.
Okay.
Or
11-17.
All right, is there a second?
I second that.
And discussion. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Okay, going on to donating the upright drill to the Liberty Grove Historical Society.
This drill came up from the old shop when this facility was built, and God knows how long it was down there, but I looked it up on the internet, and these machines were made back in early 1900, maybe late 1800s. And there's various sizes of them. They're humongous, they're heavy, they work. This one still works. We contacted the Historical Society. A couple of guys came up and looked at it, and we hit the box, and it started right up, works, it's been used here. But we now have a new drill press that was purchased this year after we budgeted in this yearly budget, which is quite different from this thing. This one, like I say, is heavier than Blaze's. We originally, some of the guys had mentioned donating it to that people that run the tractor show up there, but I thought, well, let's keep it local if possible, and they did express the interest, so if the board agrees, they'll take it, and I told them, we told them to move it out, because it is pretty heavy.
And my understanding is the newest board member on the Liberty Grove Historical Society is itching to get their hands on this drill and use it. All right, Cheryl?
The new one, actually.
I've been known to operate a drill press.
Okay.
It does have several bits with it too, that drill some pretty good sized holes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to donate the upright drill to the Liberty Grove Historical Society.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck with the drill. Operator license, approved. Janet?
There aren't any.
Or are they? Correspondence.
There is some.
Do that.
We got the certification of the levy from the Gibraltar School District. The NWTC started this year doing it electronically, so that comes by email. The Door County Tourism Zone, some minutes from the meeting. They've sent out compliance letters. They have unpaid taxes and penalties. They have about $3,300 outstanding. Have issued 11 permits in September. And have noted that 18 unpermitted properties are advertising online or have contacted the office regarding permitting. So they're pretty much on top of what's going on out there. And minutes from the executive committee from September. So,
Future meeting
6:30. The Highway Safety Committee meets at 9 a.m. at the Justice Center. I believe that would be a possible approach to make regarding this sign that Mr. Zampi was talking about up here on Highway 42. I talked to the DOT, and the location of the intersection doesn't meet the criteria of sight distances, stopping distances, etc. But I would think if the state patrol got wind of it a little bit, they might be able to put a little bit of influence on it. You never know. Crime Commission meets on the 8th at 7 o'clock. Parks and Property on the 14th.
No,
That's canceled.
Nobody lined it out here.
Parks and Properties canceled on the 14th.
It's lined out now. Library Commission, 1 p.m. on the 14th?
Yes.
Okay. Town Board, the 15th at 7 o'clock.
Sanitary Commission, too.
Right.
6 o'clock. The Utility Commission.
Oh, on the 15th, yes, the Liberty Grove Sanitary District Number 1 Commission, 6 o'clock. The main subject of importance will be grease traps. Town Association meets on the 16th at Sebastopol. And all will be closed the 23rd and the 24th for Thanksgiving. And that's it for November. Looking forward to election cycle. Non-candidacy papers are due 5 o'clock on the 22nd of December. And then we'll have more information on circulating nomination papers at the next meeting.
Okay, I have no rules tonight, but I do have a quote from John Kenneth Gilbert. The conventional view serves to protect us from the painful job of thinking. I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.